All right, thank you, Chris. Good to see everybody. Yeah, it's been a great week of practice so far. Certainly, excited to see how our team will respond from, the first obviously true adversity we faced on the field together, and been proud of the way that we've worked, and obviously got a long way to go as a team, but certainly, very, disappointed in the result Saturday. Disappointed in a lot of the things we did. Excited about a lot of the things we did, and certainly, does not hamper our team's excitement, our staff's excitement about this team and what this team can be. This is a long journey ahead, and we get that. So we're looking forward to getting up to Ames to play a really good Iowa State team. I've talked a lot about how much I think of Matt Campbell as a head coach, and he's got a really good staff. Those guys do a tremendous job on both sides. A lot of players back. This is a very experienced football team in a lot of key areas. And they've obviously won a lot of games together, and then we've had some fun battles with them over the years. So looking forward to this next one. And, after one like that, the thing you can't wait to do is to get back on the field and go back at it. And so Saturday at 6:30, cannot get here soon enough.
Thanks, Coach. We'll get to questions. We'll begin with Ryan Aber of the Oklahoman, who will be followed by Eric Bailey. Ryan?
Yeah, Lincoln, over these last 3 days, what are some of the changes that you've looked at on the defensive side of the ball, and how many of those maybe are personnel related, especially as you look at some of those young guys and maybe giving some of them a bigger opportunity?
I think that's ongoing for us. I think that's something that, whether you win by 50 or lose by 50 or anywhere in between, I think we're always doing that. Now, this year has added new wrinkles in that with the COVID and the rosters changing. You're, I think, constantly trying to get more and more guys ready to play. I think everybody's doing that. And so I think that part has certainly been different. And then I think also not just who's available on game day, but also, who's been available to practice. Who are the guys that have missed, 14 or 25 days or 28 days because of this deal that maybe normally would not have, that are really like a month behind, not to mention not having spring ball for those guys that would have been there. So we just got so many guys at so many different levels of it. But when we look at it, I think the mistakes that we made on all the sides are correctable. They're, things that we have to do better from a coaching perspective, and certainly things that our players have to do better too. But it's not, when we go back and look at it, it's not like you say this one thing cost us or this one side of the ball was so bad. I mean, both sides really played some really quality ball. I mean, really did. And then both sides made some just, really, horrendous mistakes that ended up giving Kansas State life. And so you learn from them. This is game 3, and we'll be ready to take some steps, and I would expect we'll play much better.
Appreciate it, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Bailey with the Tulsa World, and then Joe Bettner.
Hey, Lincoln, after film study, how would you say that the offensive line played in Saturday's game? What was the best part about that way they played, and where do you see needs for improvement?
I thought we fit the run game much better than we did in the first game against Missouri State. So I thought that was a big key. I thought several of the guys individually played quite a bit better than what they did. I think we, as far as the negative, I think the penalties, and a couple of times we got out of the pocket and put our guys in tough positions, but we had a couple of just, I think, unnecessary holding penalties that all seemed to be on pretty big plays, especially that, Spencer's long scramble there at the end. And then a couple of times we got beat in one-on-one pass pro there in the last couple of drives where we absolutely expect to be better. So I thought improved. It was good to play, a couple of other guys that I think are going to be contributors for us as this year goes on. And I think we've got more competition in that room. So, us, we got a pretty high expectation of that group. So they were good, but we need them to be better.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Joe Bettner with the Norman Transcript, and then Jason Kersey.
Lincoln, now that you have some separation from it, what have your conversations been like with Spencer Rattler just after the performance he had? Not that the stats were too bad, but just the interceptions and just kind of the adversity he faced late in the game. What have your conversations been like with him, and how has he responded to that in practice?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never one to go too in depth about my one-on-one conversations with players, but this is just the natural evolution of a quarterback. I mean, this is what happens. I mean, 85, 90% of what Spencer did was either really good or fabulous on Saturday. But a couple of mistakes, were really, really cost us, our offense, our team. And so he's got to learn from those, learn from the entire situation. It's a tremendous opportunity for him to grow and gain some experience and make him more ready as we continue to go on down the year. But, I'm really excited about a lot of the things he's doing, and I know the things that need to get better, we together will both get cleaned up.
Jason Kersey with The Athletic, and then Kerry Murdoch.
Yeah. Hey, Lincoln. Last year, the defense seemed to really improve in terms of giving up those big chunk plays. Are you at all, but after some of those on Saturday, are you at all concerned about that stuff lingering or carrying over, snowballing, whatever you want to call it, into future games?
No, I have confidence in our guys. I do. I don't. I mean, the things that I saw that happened in that game are easily correctable. And like you said, that's something that we've really, done a good job of limiting. Our scheme is our coaches do a good job of making it pretty simple to understand, although it can look complex. And that's, I think most great schemes have that in common. And so, we had a couple of mental errors, and listen, there's times that you have mental errors that the guy doesn't get there, and we busted coverage, and, the quarterback doesn't see it, or the protection's not there to get to it, or whatever. So, but it obviously is more glaring on the outside when you get exposed. So it's certainly not like we haven't been mistake free. We've made some mistakes. Kansas State in the second half did a good job of making us pay. We didn't make, honestly, that many, but the ones we made were big ones, and they made us pay for it. I mean, it was just they were in the right place at the right time. So we got to be better. You can't, and especially it's going to be important in this next stretch because we're playing. I mean, I was thinking about the other night. I think maybe us and I don't know. Not many people. I think just about everybody has their quarterback back, and so we're playing a bunch of guys that have played a lot of ball, and so you can't help them any. You can't give them a gift. If you bust one and give somebody a 5-yard hitch underneath or whatever, okay, we can rally from that, but you can't. We gave them just 2 or 3 absolute gifts, the other day when they could not get anything going, and those are the ones you just, good defenses don't do that. I mean, that's just is what it is. So, we have to be better, but very correctable and confident that our guys will get that done.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Kerry Murdoch with Sooner Scoop and WWLS. Cliff Brunt.
Hey, Lincoln, I know, every year a team has to overcome kind of losses of key players. And I'm just kind of curious. I mean, you're kind of talking about this, but how much – I know you'd rather struggle and come away with a win, but how much does struggling in that game Saturday kind of make it hit closer to home to your players that, some guys are gone and it's really on our shoulders to kind of step up now and carry that mantle that those guys and hold us to that standard that we're used to.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. I mean, it's a loss, especially a loss, any loss does, but a loss like that, where you really gave away a golden opportunity to win the game. It does hit you different. You certainly, it's not like, on the outside that when you win, you come in here and everybody's happy and everything's, you ignore the things that don't need to get better. There's always things that have to improve, but does a loss make you feel different about it? Of course it does. I mean, it's human nature. It's, we all invest so much in this, especially this year when a lot of us have sacrificed more than we ever have just to be able to have a season. And so, no, it hits you. And but the type of team you're going to be is going to be defined by your response. And so that's how we're looking at it. This is our challenge to be the type of team we can be. And I'm totally confident we have the right people in each of these rooms to get that done.
Let's go to Cliff Brunt, Associated Press, and then John Hoover.
Yeah, Coach, you talked about the physical mistakes Spencer made, some of the errors. And you talked about the opportunity for him to grow in terms of seeing things on the field. But from a mental standpoint, he hasn't dealt with failure in any way in an awful long time. He spent the last 2 or 3 years being told he's the man. From a mental standpoint, how important is it for him to have gone through this relatively early, and how can you use it?
Well, I think every moment for somebody that's new to playing the position at this level is a teaching moment. You're going to go through ups and downs with that. That's part of it. And I think look back to the people that have been in that room, and everybody wants to talk about all the good things that those guys have done in the past several years. And there was a lot, but each one of them had really tough moments and struggles too. I mean, the struggle is just part of it. I mean, there ain't a player in history that hasn't had the struggles. And I mean, that's just, it's going to happen. And I think you're ultimately defined, kind of like we said, by a team, but quarterbacks are ultimately defined by how they respond to it as well. And so that's a challenge. And he's a competitive kid. He's eager to learn. I have zero doubt in my mind that he's not going to take this and run with it in the correct direction.
John Hoover with SI Sooners, and then James Hale.
Hey, Lincoln, I want to borrow from a phrase that you used recently about serving two masters. When it comes to holding on to leads in some of these games, could there be some of that going on in your case where you're trying to be both the head coach and the offensive coordinator? Can being the coordinator detract from being the head coach? Can being the head coach detract from your duties as coordinator?
I don't think so. I think, I think maybe in my earlier years, as I, was kind of trying to, not that, and I don't have it all figured out now, but I don't feel like I'm giving in that area. I don't. Now, each and every week, do I come back just like a player and say there's things that I can do better? Yes, and a lot of times those things, sometimes they're in-game decisions, but most in-game decisions are made well before you ever get to the game, and it's the preparation and it's the overall mentality of a team going into it. And I think there's things there with this team that I need to do a better job. Now, I don't need to do a better job because I'm also the offensive coordinator. I need to do a better job because I need to do a better job. And I certainly can. And having the OC doesn't really have anything to do with that in my mind.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
James Hale with KREF, and then Caleb McCurry.
Lincoln, Iowa State played a lot better against TCU than they did in the season opener. I was wondering what you saw there. And defensively, they're unique. They have a great pass rusher. It looks like on the outside, then they play almost 8 deep. They're dropping guys all the time. I'm curious what you see from them defensively and how difficult is that to go against?
Yeah, they've done a great job defensively in this league for a long time. They've got a really gifted defensive coordinator, does a great job. They've done a great job of depth into to the talent that they have, and they've played in this 3-man front with a lot of different drop 8 schemes for a long time and been, really, I think the standard in the country for teams that have done that. So, a lot of what you see in the Big 12, you're starting to see it leaking into other conferences now. I've even started to see it a little bit more at the pro level. I think stems from some of the things these guys are doing. So no, they do a tremendous job. No surprise that that they would come back and respond and play a lot better after the loss that they had. I mean, with the staff and experienced quarterback, a lot of good players, returning players. I mean, no surprise. So no, it's a fun challenge playing them. They do a tremendous job. We have the utmost respect for them and their program.
Thanks.
We'll go to Caleb McCurry with OU Daily, and then Brandon Drum.
Lincoln, after last year's Kansas State loss, there was a team meeting right when you guys got back to Norman, led by Jalen Hurts. For this year, for this team right now, after losses like these, who's the most vocal in team meetings?
We've got quite a few guys. I think we had some really, really strong leaders on that team last year, but I think we have some very strong leaders on this team as well. So, there's the of course, our 2 captains are very vocal and aggressive and have done a tremendous job, both Creed and Pat. Ronnie Perkins, even though he hasn't been able to play, has still been I think a pretty influential member there. And we've got several others that have certainly not been afraid to step up and chime in. So that's what you want. You don't want one guy, you want that kind of that leadership group and several guys that are echoing the message and carrying the message. And I've certainly seen that from this team so far.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Drum with OU Insider, and then Garen Emig.
Hey, Lincoln, you talked about the not being able to give up those big plays. Obviously, 5 of the plays were 60% of what K-State got offensively. Can as a defense, you just talked about the leaders. What can they do to kind of keep that from avalanching, piece by piece, play by play, with those young guys that haven't really been through any of this stuff before?
Yeah, I think the first thing is understanding that that giving up one play here or there is not the end of the world. And sometimes when you're playing so well and your expectations are so high, like we were playing defensively, all of a sudden, one or two happen and frustration starts to boil or panic starts to boil. And the key is you got to keep doing what you were doing and continue to stay the course. And we've got to do a better job of that. And then the other thing is, I would say at the secondary level in particular is, our guys have got to eliminate when something gets loose. When a pass gets loose or when the one run all day does pop, we got to get the guy on the ground and finish tackles. And that's every defense gives up a play here and there. Every now and then a run's going to pop, a pass is going to pop, and again, does that pop for a 12 or even maybe 20-yard gain, or does a guy pop it and it turns into 40, 50, 60, 70? And again, that's we have done a really good job of that, but we obviously, didn't there several times in the second half. So our safeties, our corners, when they're back there, have got to be eliminators. And then we just can't have the mental mistakes that give them the freebies.
Gary Neiman with Tulsa World, and then Barry Trammell.
Lincoln, you took great comfort in the last 5 years with your three quarterbacks, knowing that when adversity struck, they had the experience and the savvy to handle it, and they proved that they did that over and over again. With such a pup in Spencer, do you feel a need to step in and be more active in regard to getting him through his first moments of adversity, whether it's in games or over the course of a season, or does that have to be inherent regardless for a guy?
I don't think it's inherent. I think it I do think it's a learned skill. I think it's two things, but I think it's a learned skill. And then I do think it does come down to your natural confidence and belief in yourself. And I believe that I know he has that. And honestly, I haven't spent any more time with him than I would have had we won the game. I mean, there's so many coachable and teachable moments. I mean, listen, we make one more play in that game, we're all sitting here, we're not having this conversation right now, but the issues are still there. I mean, the game could have turned out exactly like, except they missed the 50-yard field goal, and then we drive down and score, and everybody wins, and everybody's happy. But the issues were still going to be there. And so there's still going to be the coachable, teachable moments. It has a little different emotion in it right now because of the disappointment, but it doesn't mean there's not still those moments. So it's every snap, everything that happens is such a way for him to grow, our room to grow, our trust to grow, and we got to take advantage of that, win or lose.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Barry Trammell with the Oklahoman, and then Dean Blevins.
Yeah, Lincoln, you've won 5 straight Big 12s, but in recent years, it's not like you've been killing everybody. You've won a bunch of close games. Is that an attribute in your program? Is that just fortune? Is it a case of if you play enough close games, you're going to lose some of them? How do you rationalize, or how do you look at all these close games you've been playing the last couple of years?
Yeah, no, we've won a lot of close games, and a lot of those we've made pretty big plays to win those games in the end. So I think I think there's, you always want to, if you have opportunities to put people away, which again, I think that's always a lot easier said than done. But if you have a chance to put people away, you always obviously want to do that. And we need to do that more. There's no question about that. But yeah, I mean, probably a little bit of everything. Has there been a game here and there where we've had some fortune go away? Yes. I mean, did we have a lot of things out of our control that didn't go our way the other day? Yeah, sure we did. I mean, did we have a hand in it? Of course we did. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. I don't know that there's just one blanket answer, but I think the bottom line for us is we've got to play to our standard more consistently. That is the absolute bottom line for us. And we, as coaches, staff, leaders, every player, every person in this program, we've got to do a better job of getting that message across to our players and then executing that for as long as we possibly can on Saturdays. And, we can do better. I mean, there's no question about that. And we will do better.
Dean Blevins with KWTV, and then Bob Prisbillo.
Lincoln, I had been told early last week that there was a real good chance Jalen Redmond would return from opting out, and then by the end of the week was told that it was almost a done deal. Do you expect him to return?
I honestly don't have any information on that. I've heard nothing on either side of that, to be completely honest.
Okay, Bob Prisbillo with Sooner Scoop, and then Keegan Renault.
Yeah, Lincoln, ever since Alex Grinch has come here to talk about takeaways equal victory, I think last year we asked if that was wearing on the players. Is it wearing on Grinch too? Is it too big of an emphasis for him when there's other ways to gauge success?
No, heck no. No, you don't back away from that. I mean, that's because we see what a game changer they are. And so no, I've never seen anything, you get anything by de-emphasizing it. You know, I think you keep coaching it, you keep demanding it, you keep finding different ways to emphasize it, to practice it. And you know, the takeaways are so contagious, man. I mean, they always are in football. And so, you know, we need to get on a run with it. I mean, there's no question. I mean, it's the equalizer. I mean, you know, like the other day, you can outplay a team all you want for as long as you want, but if you lose the turnover margin big, it's you know, it's that equalizes the whole thing in a hurry. So, and I think to be a great defense, and take that step from being good to great, you know, turnovers have to be a part of that. You know, does that mean you're going to lead the country in turnovers every single year? Maybe not, but it means you're going to get your fair share. And again, we don't see any reason in the world why we can't cause and create a lot of turnovers defensively.
Keegan Renault with Sooners Wire, and then Joey Helmer.
Yeah, Lincoln, just piggybacking a little bit off what Jason asked earlier. I know there was the long run from one of them that there was a bunch of missed tackles on, but does it help you sleep a little bit better at night knowing that the issues aren't effort, aren't tackling, aren't the, you know, kind of little things that go into runs popping? I know talking about alignment and coverage busts and all that, but does it help you sleep a little bit better knowing that it's not effort and it's not the tackling issues that kind of happen early on in the season?
Not really. I haven't been a whole lot of sleep this week. So, no, I mean, listen, there is a lot of good things we're doing. That's what happens when you win one of those, like I think I referenced earlier in one of the other questions, when you win one of those close ones, the notion is, well, we did good, move on to the next one and not look at the mistakes. And then when you lose one, that's all anybody wants to look at is the mistakes. And the reality is when you go watch the film, there's no doubt there's a lot of really good things we're doing. And honestly, we're doing several things defensively better than we did at any point last year right now. But you got to put it all together, and you got to get guys on the ground. I mean, I think about like the angle route that K-State hits. All right, so they hit an angle route on you. All right, big deal. It's going to be a first down at midfield. You know, get the guy down. All right, so you miss one tackle. You're going to miss a tackle here. Now you got two more guys there. That's the critical mistake of those two guys and not getting them down that it turns into. And then you can't, like I said, you just – in this league with the experienced and good quarterback play like we have in the league right now, you just cannot give guys freebies. You have to make them earn every bit of it. And, you know, we had a couple that we gave Skylar the other day that were absolute freebies that really got them going.
Okay, Joey Helmer with OU Insider, and then Danielle Dwyer.
Yeah, you talked about you guys have been through this before. You made the college football playoff after losing a game, but is there anything psychologically that's different about losing a game in September as opposed to a little bit later in the season and kind of embarking upon that journey that you guys have done?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we've lost one in September in a while. Kind of, I guess maybe some of the emotions of my second year here when we lost to Ohio State and Houston a little bit. This year's different, you know, just that we're, you know, into conference so quick and all that's going on. I don't know. Honestly, I mean, the losses, they all suck and they all hurt like hell. And you really kind of test your insides to go fight back. And so, I mean, I've not had, despite the disappointment, zero doubt in what we can be, and that we've just got to work harder and do better to get there, and that we will get there. So, it's a great challenge. I mean, all losses are. I mean, that's one thing. That's one thing about OU, man. I mean, that's the standard here, and the standard's great. It takes you to great heights, but also when you have a down one, you can't let it beat you up. You got to be able to get back up and fight and get right back on track and play the way you should be. And that's going to be our challenge. And in that way, I don't know that it feels any different than any of the losses that we've had. We hadn't had to experience it very much, but the couple that we have had, I would say it doesn't feel that much different from.
Okay, let's go to Danielle Dwyer from KOKH.
Yeah, Lincoln, you opened up talking about just the respect you have for Matt Campbell and what he's done with Iowa State. They've always played you guys pretty tough, have some close games, especially last year down in Norman since he took over the helm. What do you think about maybe his coaching style or what he's been able to do, especially coming from the MAC and then taking over this program and kind of turning it around? What's led you to have so much respect for him, and can you kind of elaborate on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I just think, the way those guys play, they found kind of a system that works for them. It looks like they've got a really good culture, at least from the outside, and the guys play hard. They play physical. They've done a good job recruiting. They found some really, really good players, and then they've done some things I think that really fit the personnel. Again, kind of like I talked about defensively, they're very unique in what they do and do it very well. They're always very tough to prepare for. Offensively, very multiple, using the tight ends and the multiple shifts and motions. And then, like I said, not to mention, they've had some really good players. I mean, I can remember for two or 3 years, NFL scouts coming in there, and the scouts always ask about your guys first, but then the very next question always is, hey, is there somebody you've played that you think's really good and nobody's paying attention to? And I can't remember how many scouts that we and myself said, you need to watch that Alan Lazard guy at Iowa State. Their receiver's really good. Nobody's talking about him. I think the guy goes undrafted, and now he's lighting it up with Aaron Rodgers. So, I mean, they've found and developed some really, really good players too. So now he's done a tremendous job.
Time for just a couple more. James Hale, KREF.
Lincoln, bubble screens. It seems like defenses have caught up to him a little bit. Do you still feel like the bubble screen is an effective play in an offense in today's game?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of right time, right place. Like any play, it requires good execution. I mean, it's when you execute them good, they look good. When you don't execute them good, it's kind of out there right in the open for everybody to see. It's not like a run play that's kind of in a mass of bodies. So it's a little bit more, when they're pretty, they're pretty. And when they're ugly, they're ugly, on display for everybody. So now some people play them, really well and make it tougher, but that's, I think it's a good part of your package. I certainly don't think they're irrelevant.
Kerry Murdoch with Sooner Scoop and WWLS.
Lincoln, because you brought it up, that 2016 season, I did want to ask you about that, kind of what you learned from Bob about being a head coach at Oklahoma, seeing him kind of navigate that 1-2 start that year.
Yeah, no doubt. That was a tough start. The team came, we had, really high expectations for that team and a lot of good players coming back after the way we had, played there, especially the second half of the season in 2015. And yeah, I remember it being just kind of a shock to our systems. I mean, nobody could even have imagined starting. I think we started 1-2. I mean, you couldn't, it was just a complete shock to everybody's systems. And it took some regrouping. And then even after that, it wasn't perfect. I mean, I still remind guys all the time. I mean, you think, well, we circled the wagons and I think we had an offer before we played TCU that year. And we go up to TCU and bam, we're down like I would say like 21-7. I mean, just like that. And they're sort of thinking, man, we're, maybe staring 1-3 right here in the face. And then, we had some fight in us, rallied, came back, won that game. And then we didn't lose again the rest of the year. So, I mean, you can have that type of momentum. And I think we have the type of team that is capable of doing that. Now, being, like we've always said, being capable of doing it and doing it are two completely different things. And so we're happy we have the capability, but there's a lot of work to be done.
Thanks, Lincoln.
And last question, Jason Kersey from The Athletic.
Yeah, Lincoln, we're obviously not seeing you behind the scenes, but both after the game and today, you seem like you're actually in a pretty good mood. And I'm just wondering if that's representative of what it's like around the program, if you guys know that you're better than that.
You guys just bring that out in me.
You're welcome.
No, yeah, no, it's been a hard week. I mean, it is. It's these aren't ever easy. I mean, they test you. I mean, I look forward to the challenge. Each deal is a challenge in its own way. I'd rather not have this challenge, but I look forward to it. Our team looks forward to it. Our players look forward to it. It is what it is. It's our reality right now. We have to deal with it, and so no, it's not all fun and smiles. It's not fun at all. But the climb back up can be fun if we do it the right way. But we're going to have to really push and really grind, each and every one of us, to get that done.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you, Coach. That's all our time for today.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Lincoln Riley Press Conference presented by Allstate. Protecting you has no offseason. You're in good hands with Allstate. Sooner Sports Network in Learfield, IMG College. Thanks for listening to the Lincoln Riley Presser. We'll see you next Tuesday. I'm Chris Blunt.